Hey everyone, TimaeuSS here. Welcome to another Grimlight video. So this is the free-to-play PvE reroll slash tier list that the community has been building, and it was passed to me by Helena, so thank you very much. I'll go over the list today, and in this video I'll discuss my thoughts, and just take everything with a grain of salt because again, this is quite early. People are still trying to figure out the meta, but this is what people have decided in terms of what's good and what's not. And of course, you may disagree or agree. I'm gonna have some things to talk about as well. But before we go into the reroll tier list, I just want to give a shout out to the devs again for addressing some of the issues today. So we had an emergency maintenance. PvP was locked down because of hackers or exploits happening, but we did get 10 premium currencies, which is fantastic in the limited pool banners, or limited time banners rather. And of course, they also talked about the stamina system. So now the stamina cost to refill is capped at 45, used to be 50, and the next time you buy it 70, so it's now always capped at 45, and you can buy it 5 times a day, which I'll be doing to maximize my progression. And speaking of progression, before we move on to the reroll tier list, you can look at my account right here. So I'm stamina gated at the moment, but I'm at stage 6-15, so this is the last node before chapter 7, and chapter 7 is the last chapter currently in the game. So I think I've progressed decently enough to give at least some thoughts about the game. So let's talk about the PvE reroll tier list. So right at the top, tier 0 is Dracula. Dracula personally I think is definitely worthy of tier 0, so I do agree with this component, and I'll link this in the description as well. But basically this is the game's hero information list, along with some of the teams available. But let's take a look at the Dracula stats. So active, there is 300 something % damage, AoE plus knockback. That's his active. Passive is every 3 damage deals extra damage. Every 3rd hit deals extra damage with physical resistance debuff for 10 seconds. So physical attacker with really good AoE. His trait is what makes him really strong. So plus 15% attack for 60 seconds, which is insane, right? Because maximum 5 stacks means it goes to plus 75, and that's just a lot of stats. And then he can sustain himself because of a 20% lifesteal, and they talk about him here. Plus 75%, and with the AoE, really good sustain. And I'm not going to showcase every single hero on the tier list, but I will do a showcase for Dracula, just because Dracula is actually one of my mains in my first level 50, and he's been carrying me in the game. So definitely worthy of tier 0. So Cinderella for tier 0, I can agree with that too. So Cinderella has a skill that charges the entire team. So let's find her. She basically, on entry, gives 5 energy to all allies every 3 seconds, so you'll get your ultimate skills, your active skills faster. And she has an insane single target damage, basically huge instances of single target damage. If there's only one target, that's 12 times the amount, which is crazy. And then also at tier 0, you get to choose either between Queen of Hearts or Winter Queen. So this is basically deciding which AoE magic user is better. I have Winter Queen, so I'm gonna say that Winter Queen is better, but I do know Queen of Heart has AoE plus crowd control, so CC with the stuns, and that comes in handy as well. But Winter Queen, because of her passive, she'll deal constant damage, as well as apply freeze, which is an AoE CC. So personally, I think Winter Queen stands out on top a bit higher. So in terms of the tier 1s, I do believe Alice can be somewhat of a tier 0 as well. So as a warrior, she has an attack scaling heal as a passive. Every 3 attacks she'll heal the team. So later on, she's very strong, and she has a 20% evasion, so you can stack evasion. I don't think she can really tank that well, but with all these skills, her survivability is very much she's going to be very strong in terms of sustain as well. Not so much as Dracula, because Dracula's heal is just massive. But Alice, I think, is very good as well. I would personally put Alice close to tier 0.5 or even tier 0. And of course, I have Alice as well, but just not raised at the moment. The other ones, I can talk about Dorothy. I think Dorothy, because of her HP scaling, heal, and shield, she is actually a tier 0.5 as well, almost tier 0, just because she makes everyone in team hard to kill. The only, I think, other part about her is that because of the shield, there's not a lot of overhealing, so that makes her heal even better. So I think that's really, really good. And then Snow White is fantastic as a tank. Personally, I think Snow White isn't as great as some make it to be, just because I have Snow White and she's actually one of my main tanks, the main tank. But unfortunately, I think the 5 cost really limits her in terms of deployment status, because if you deploy Snow White, 5 is a lot compared to like a Little Mermaid, which is 4, and it allows for room for another 4 cost instead of like a 2 cost or 3 cost. So I think personally for me, Snow White tier 1's okay. The other ones, the 4 stars are really good as well. You can check out the skills, but one thing to know about the 4 stars is because you can get a lot more dupes for the 4 star and unlock their constellation thing, which I'll show you here. So it's a lot easier for them to unlock awakening stats. Yeah, that's what it's called. And awakening stats are pretty insane. So you don't see it here, but for SSRs, you get like 20 attack, 50% crit damage, 20% crit or something. It's insane Master Awakening. And for 3 stars and 4 stars, it's a lot easier to do versus 5 stars. And so that's why some of the higher 4 stars actually can definitely compete with 5 stars unless you are a mega whale. And the devs already talked about this. They'll address it, and there will be ways for us to obtain dupes without breaking our banks. So that's fine. I think the tier 1s are... personally, I would move Dorothy up a bit. Tama, I would move her down a bit. And then for the tier 2s, looks reasonable. Maybe Kaguya a bit higher, and Otome... sorry, White Rabbit definitely a bit higher, and Otome okay as it is. They say she's the best healer, but I've used her. I think unless you've got a lot of her dupes and activated the Awaken, she's not that insane. So yeah, that's a pretty quick breakdown of the PvE reroll tier list, because again, the game is so early. We know who the tier 0s are, we know what the good tier 1s are, and the best bet honestly is just to stay updated. This is going to be updated as well by the community, so I'll provide the link so you can see if things are improving or changed, and just have a read of the heroes and make a decision for yourself, because people were saying that Dracula wasn't that great, but I took Dracula and I think Dracula is super amazing. So tier lists are always changing, and it's always going to be someone's opinion, but hopefully this is as close as we get if we come together as a community to decide what's best and what's not. And of course, there are team suggestions in this document as well, and I'll have a breakdown of that later on once I clear chapter 7, the last chapter of the game. So yeah, it's TimaeuSS here. Hopefully you found this helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next video.